we actually will start to do our plan. And I have to give an example here. I'll have to give an example, say, of, I'm going to grow salad, because it's quite a good one to give an example. I'm going to grow salad. So here we have Green City Farm, salad, and salads. Right. And here we're going to have varieties. Amounts. Good. Because we're not going to do this, right? Okay. And here we're going to have, we have to, the restaurant who we're going to sell to wants to have salad as soon as possible until as long as possible. So we've got here June, and Sadon Corio. Yes, we've got here Sadon Corio. And so here we're going to put the list of, say, I'll have to put it here, but we're not calculating. So we're going to say harvesting. Start here again, harvesting. Yes. So we've got salad 1. We've got Jupiter, Little Gem, and Alfred. Names of 3 salad varieties. Amounts. Here we want say we're 25 times 5 kilos, harvesting salad 1, and then we're going to amounts. He's going 25 times 5 kilos. I have to know that 25 kilos is 10 salad. We want 250. We want 250. I know this, yes? 25 kilos is about 10 cups, isn't it? Yes? So we're going to have about 250. We have 50, 100, 100. Getting complicated, but this is how it is. Right? And then to get them, salad 1, salad 2, salad 3, and it's going to have the same 1, 2, 3 varieties, 1, 2, 3 varieties. The same it goes. So we've got the 3 varieties, 50, 100, 50, 100, 100, 50, 100, 100. And we're going to sow them, so we get here 25 times 5 kilos, 25 times 5 kilos like this. And this is going to be June, July, August, like this, the harvesting. So I usually got about 10 of these, salad 1 to 10. But we do it 3 now. So I'm going to harvest here, so we're going to have to plant here. We're going to have to sow here. June, say, May 1st, 50. And you see these trays, 1, 2, 3 times 96 trays. May the 1st, June 1st, July 1st. That is basically very simply speaking, the result of what we talked about. The varieties, the amounts, Gulliver, Sadonkoria. Everybody does it. When you do it yourself, everybody does it their own way. If you look on the internet at like gardening plants, you see hundreds of them. All different ways of doing it. The correct way to do it is to do it the way that you understand how it should be done. But before you can do that, you have to understand yourself. Nobody can really teach it to you. They can tell you. They can show you their video. Like my sister showed me her video. Oh my God, that's terrible. I don't understand that at all. That's, some people make them really complicated. Mine is really quite simple. I know that if I produce Gulliver here, I know that the plant takes 3 or 4 weeks. So I know I have to plant it. I plant it when it's ready. I don't have to put on my Viljelysuunnitelma planting, sowing, planting. I plant it when the plant's ready. But I do know when I do have to know when I sow it. I would suggest now that towards the end of the course, when you have gone through these growing, when you've seen the plants, you've done the planting, and you've done the harvesting, I suggest, what do you think, when we've been through the season, and now we see, we've done the plants, we'll do planting, we'll do harvesting, we'll do package, and then we do Viljelysuunnitelma, when you actually see, what's happening. To do it so farm now, talk about Viljelysuunnitelma, is not to do it. But to start thinking at the beginning now, there's sort of, is definitely the way to do it. When you're looking at how Heidi and myself are planning this season. We've already talked to the kitchens. From our experience, we've chosen the varieties. We've done everything ready and the plan is ready. And until you've seen that, it's almost too much to go on saying this, talking.
I think it is also important, that's how you can communicate with the restaurants and to plan with them that when they want to have the harvest, then you start planning the Viljelysuunnitelma.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge part of it, is like this, it's like what? That's how what are we going to grow? That is definitely marketing. Yes.
Yeah.
And
but then the restaurant has to be also adjustable, that because of the weather, you may get it in June, but sometimes it might be a little bit later, so then the restaurant has to have a plan B that if they don't get it in a certain week, maybe it will be for the next week. So then you have to have a collaboration.
I've spent a lot of time dealing with this very question of like reliability. A customer depends on me. Certainly, I've been dealing with Tukkuliiket and supermarkets, and if you mess up with them, you don't really. And it's a large amounts. So you have to have in your Viljelysuunnitelma, you have to have an allowance. Okay, it doesn't always work, but we usually grow 15 to 20% more than they need. It's not very nice, but we do it. We grow a lot in this variety. We grow, like with salads, I got 10 different salads, plantings. So they actually overlap. The third variety will overlap with the first variety in the next planting. And this is a shame in a way, because it means that if everything goes like really well, we have a really good summer, it rains enough, it's not too cold, I get too much stuff. And then I want to sell it, because it's better to sell it than leave it. And then I actually put my own, I compete with myself and the price goes down. And if other farmers also do that, it's the cause of overproduction one of the causes, and then it's one of the causes of bad prices. It works the opposite in a bad year. The better you do the plan, and the better you compensate for a bad year, you can make a lot of money in a bad year, because you've done a good Viljelysuunnitelma that allows for those things. Okay, the next thing, the time left is, it's a kind of separate thing that I need to mention here. And it's this. Lanoitus. Is it two words, Lanoitussuunnitelma? Now this is kind of separate. We've got the Viljelysuunnitelma, and we're going to have now Lanoitussuunnitelma. Because we've chosen Luomo, we've limited ourselves now to how we're going to grow these plants. Before we can do this, we've got three things. We've got macro. Oh, fertilizer.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
No worries, no worries. Just a thought.
You have to know this. Before we can talk about fertilizer, you have to know this. We call them, in horticulture and agriculture, we call macronutrients, secondary nutrients, and micronutrients. And these are basically, these nutrients is what we need for plants to grow. Well, we need as well. Above that is what does everything need? Oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon. Number one. Number two, we all need oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon. That goes without saying. In plants, the macronutrients for plants is NPK. Do we all know what these three things are? Do you know what N is? Typpi. Kalium. Typpi, phosphorus, kalium. We have to know this, right? The secondary nutrients, not so many. Calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. This is actually, in kind of volume, how much plants need. They need a hell of a lot of nitrogen, hell of a lot of phosphorus, hell of a lot of kalium. They need quite a lot of calcium, quite a lot of magnesium, and quite a lot of sulfur. And then the micronutrients, the main ones is iron, boron, zinc, copper, manganese, and molybdenum, plus malt. And these are micronutrients because the plant needs hardly any of them. The ones malt are that they need hardly any of them, and there's a lot of them in nature, so we don't count them. Things like silicon, chlorine, they're quite easy for the plant to find them. Chlorine can be difficult. So we don't count them as fertilizers because plants usually don't show. These ones, if this is missing from the soil, some of these, the plant won't grow well. It's obvious that they really need them. Now when we talk about Lanoitussuunnitelma, this, of course, this is what we need. And we have to feed the plant. So the first thing we have to know how much is in our location, where we're going to grow this crop. We have to know what's there. Is there any nitrogen there? Is there any potassium? And if there is, how much is it? And is it enough for the plant to grow without us adding anything? Now, some of the soils in the world, Southern California, the black soils in the Ukraine, very rich in minerals. We don't, in Britain, we have this chalky soil that's full of calcium and magnesium naturally. We don't need to add any. Finland, we've got very poor soils. Some of the glacial, sandy glacial soils that have only been there for a few 10,000 years or so. There's these ancient soils like in the Ukraine and things. Deep, 3 meters deep black soil. We've got like 20 centimeters deep, sandy, quartzy soil that's got none of these. We have to do a soil analysis, analysis. We have to analyze the soil. We have to know the soil in our location. What's in it? I'm going to give you one of these now. And Heidi's going to talk to you a bit more about this. And during the summer, by the end of the summer, hopefully you'll understand all of it. And I'd like you to...
Steve, can I have one?
Oh, yes, okay. I'd like you to study this, and if you're interested, to study this in your own time a little bit, so that you'll get a lot of food for thought from this. Now, the interesting thing here is the list on this side. You can see that most of our nutrients are there. Kalium, phosphate, rikki, kuppari, manganese, zinki. Not all of them, but most of them are there. But at the beginning, you're going to see Malai. Can you see the word Malai? It means soil type. Soil type. Now, we can't grow porganat in Saviland, or we don't want to grow in Saviland. Some things prefer sat, so we want to know the Malai. It'll tell you here. The other thing is this pH. How acid, how alkali. In Finnish, acid is hapanta, and what's the alkali? Emma, yes. We need to know that because a plant needs this 5, 6, 7, very important. Yes? And then we have the nutrients here. Now, I do this, I don't do it every year. And Heidi will show you, hopefully today, we'll talk about how we do this. And it's the first step in a growing system and a Viljelysuunnitelma. It's this Viljelysuunnitelma. Now, when I have this information, I can go to this book, or to a book, for example, of course on the internet everywhere, go to the most boring looking professional sites to get the best information. And then I will go here, I will go here to how much does a porgana need, say phosphorus, to grow. Then I'll look at this to see how much is in the field. Then I have to give the porgana the difference between the two. If there isn't enough here, and the porgana needs this, I have to fill in the gap so that that porgana gets the right amount. It's very Joostava, and it's very flexible. But if I don't give it enough, we get horrible little woody porgana. If I give it too much, it's a waste of good compost or a waste of good fertilizer. So I want to give it just the right amount. Certainly in commercial farming. basically that's how we do it. Viljelysuunnitelma analysis, soil analysis, understanding how much the plant needs, and then giving the plant that much. However you do it, that's the way. Now, a few minutes, good. How do we give this? How do we get this? All this stuff that the plant needs, how do we give it? So we have number one, compost. Manure, lanta. 2, luomulannoitus. 3, chemical, I have to put it in first. Chemical fertilizers. 4, green manures. And that's about it, really. This one, unfortunately, because we're normal, it's out of the question. That's forbidden, which is a great shame. And it's one of the reasons why I like this integrated production. Because integrated production would allow me to use a chemical fertilizer if I needed to. Not to use it, but if I can justify using it, I can use it. In law, it's forbidden. Compost and manures, very current question. People are only now, actually, or once again, beginning to understand compost and manures. You can do a compost analysis in the same way as you do a soil analysis, and they will tell you what's in that compost. They will tell you how much nitrogen, how much phosphorus, how much carbon roughly is in it. And then we also remember that the soil can produce its own nutrients. It doesn't really need fertilizer. If we feed, if we feed the soil will feed the plant. And one of the ways you feed the soil is definitely not with this. It's too intense. This is the way you feed the soil. You put organic matter, you put composted waste, food waste, full of organic bacteria, nematodes, little animals all living. They go into the soil, they trigger the soil to become living, and the soil will release its mineral content available for the plant. So that phosphorus is locked in the soil. There's no way a plant root comes along, he says, "Well, there's some phosphorus," and it tries it and it's stuck. It's fixed. We call it soil phosphorus fixation. We get some bacteria and living things around that soil particle. It gets the phosphorus off there. The little animal dies of old age. The plant grabs the phosphorus as it becomes available, either as the little bacteria and fungi release it, or as they die. So it's a current question, and in organic farming, it is the thing we do. As we work on the soil. Biodynamic people have been telling us this since what's his name wrote that book. Actually, he tried to tell us straight away. And compost and manures. Luomulannoite is a way we can allow for problems associated with this. It's a difficult question. It's not a difficult question. Scientifically, it's a sort of massive biological science. This can give us a channel to make sure that we don't miss anything or we get it right. And fortunately, for luomulannoite, they use animal waste from the agriculture, chicken manure, bone, hair, cows, fur from cows, bone from pigs, and then they sterilize it, clean it, and make it into pellets, basically, analyze it. When you put chemical fertilizer on the soil, if you can imagine, you've seen these little round, have you seen chemical fertilizer, little round white ball, little white pellets? And they're actually kind of strong salt. It's a kind of salty thing. And when you put it on the soil, it kind of like changes the soil, the salt content and the soil around it, so that it's like unfriendly. It's a little bit like us trying to drink seawater rather than fresh water, simply speaking. And it's the same for that bacteria in the soil. It's like intense chemical comes in. It's not so bad, but they don't like it. It's not natural for them. But when you put like a lump of like chicken shit, bone, cow, hair, actually, I can see they start to go mouldy and fungus starts to grow around them in the soil, showing that they're like friendly to the environment around them, actually get things going. By the way, in here, there's something here called johtoluku. Can you see, just under multavos, johtoluku. This is actually telling us how, in a way, is telling us the salt content in the soil. Has it had intensive chemical fertilizers put on it? The higher the loko, johtoluku, is the higher, has it got either contamination from seawater or over-fertilized with chemical fertilizers. If the johtoluku is too high, it means it's like too fertilized or too not good for the plants to grow. We want a low johtoluku. It's something to do with plant nutrition. So we've got the luomulannoitus, and then we have viherlannoitus, which is, some of you might have heard or visited Green City Farm, have heard about viherlannoitus. We use, on Green City Farm, we use this, because it's very hot. We're trying to, from kitchen composting and from buying in, and we're trying to get going on this. We use this, a little bit these two, but we use all three. And we're trying to get these up to the sort of numbers where things grow. And if you've been in Green City Farm in the summer, you'll see that we get it pretty right, actually. Most of the things we grow do look healthy, big, strong. They're getting the fertilizers we need. We won't do now a Viljelysuunnitelma because we need to write down the figures. But we could later on, or next autumn, if you were interested in the real growing, we could also do a Viljelysuunnitelma for certain crops. Most gardeners, most people, certainly in organic, they don't think about this. They just put compost, sprinkle a little bit of this biolan kanakaka, the Viljelysuunnitelma. And yeah, it works if you put enough on, but you do need a lot. Compost and manures, you need about 50 to 60 tons per hectare. So if it's 60 tons, that's 60,000 kilos. That's almost, is that 60,000? Is that almost 6 kilos? Is that 6 kilos per 10 square meters? It's a lot. So I mean, it's huge. So even we can't be today. We can't handle that sort of material. So we have to have some normal management, and it's a good way to get rid of waste, like from the meat industry and fur types. green manures, we need to talk about that separately. But basically speaking, green manures is we grow a crop that we don't harvest, and that crop stays in the field and feeds the next year's crop. And depending what we use for the green manure will depend on what it leaves the crop the following year. The best example is clover, apila. Clover is the best known example. Clover fixes nitrogen from the air on the roots. It brings nitrogen, brings it into the soil from the air, and when it dies, and the bacteria releases that nitrogen into the soil so the plant can use it. That's the most common Viljelysuunnitelma. There are other ones we grow for kalium and for soil structure, improving the soil structure. Thank you. I think that's 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Thank you.
There's so many things, you know. But I really hope that this agriculinary course, the part of it that I'll be dealing with it anyway, will go through all these things, like practically as well. Like visiting the field, looking at the green manure, looking at the compost, talking about compost, and then at the end, doing a Viljelysuunnitelma. Maybe something like this anyway. And doing it properly. Like we're doing this is professional. I love gardening, and I really understand that gardening is the best hobby on the planet. But I want to make sure it's not just a hobby. It's like really go somewhere. It's going to a restaurant, it's going to a kitchen, or it's going to a mother who really wants to give her children the best food, the best quality. Best quality means it's grown using proper organic methods. Yes.